dangling things that you
Yeah.
see all over your lawn.
Yeah.
So it's like phase 2 of the pollen.
It'll
be over soon.
Yeah, it's been miserable because like it's nice out, so we want to keep the windows open, but it's just like our house is filled with pollen.
Yeah, I get it. I think we're live.
Well, keeping with the trend of talking about not baseball to start the live show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. May 1st. We made it to May, Scott. Today we're brought to you.
Didn't even realize.
Brought to you by Game Time and LinkedIn. Tell you more about those in a little bit. Yeah, made it to May. How you feeling about the baseball team 1 month in?
I think I feel this way the majority of years at the beginning of the season because there's always like a Jekyll and Hyde type of situation. You don't know what you really are. It's hard to, there's no sample size. You don't know, you can't really believe what you see sometimes. So I don't know. I think the pitching is good
podcast host. I don't know.
But what I will tell you is that I am feeling very grateful and lucky and happy to be watching Aaron Judge play baseball because that man is just a maestro out there with the bat. It's crazy.
It is insane what we're watching. He's leaving 400 in the dust. He's approaching 430 batting average, which gives him a nice buffer to if he goes into like an 0 for 8 slump, he's still probably hitting over 400, which is insane. It's now a month into baseball. I remember Michael Kay said this on a recent broadcast, maybe a week ago. If you go back to like May 1st of last year, it's basically a full season of baseball. He's hitting like 360. That's probably more like 370 now because you made this point the other day. He didn't have a good April last year.
No, he had a terrible April. It wasn't that he didn't have a good April. He had an awful April.
Right. And so if you just go back like a full season, well, I know you can't do this, but like 160-ish games of baseball, he's hitting 360 something, 370 something. That ain't no fluke. That ain't no small sample size.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy. The coverage of the plate is just wild. Like, yeah, even yesterday when they were trying to walk him in his last at bat where he singled through and drove in the run, clearly they were not trying to throw him a strike. And there was a breaking ball that leaked back over towards the plate. I don't even know if it was over the plate, but it was on the edge of the plate, whether it was on or off. The man just like effortlessly pulled that ball through the gap between shortstop and third base. And when you're seeing a right-handed batter do that on the outside of the plate and just pull the ball with no issue and get enough on it for a ground ball to get through that hole, like that's just an impressive piece of hitting that completely gets overlooked on how difficult that is and how unbelievably how your timing has to be impeccable, how the plate coverage has to be right there. And yeah, you just can't throw him anything like 2 to 3 inches on or off the plate because he hits it. And he's been hitting it hard. So it's fun to watch, man.
And to your point about not expanding the strike zone, covering the plate, taking walks, like you're seeing that happen as well. Every night he's getting on base like a minimum of 2 times. It's a walk and a hit or 2 hits. So he's going 2 for 4 or 2 for 3 every single night. Listen, I know we still have 5 months to go, but it's fun to talk about. The way if he hits 400 or sniffs 400 this year, it's going to be because he's not expanding the strike zone and continues to take walks. I went back and looked at Ted Williams' 406 season. He led the league in walks. He led the league in walks many years, which is why his batting average was so high. Because once you start expanding the strike zone, that's when you get in trouble. That's when you might go get an 0 for 4 or something like that because you're trying to get a hit instead of letting the pitcher come to you. Yeah, I'm going to go 1 for 2 in the 2 at-bats that they throw me pitches, and then I'm going to also take 2 walks. So my batting average on the night is 500. My on-base is 750 because they were afraid to throw me a strike tonight.
Yeah, he's just dictating every single at-bat because he won't go outside the zone. And that's the thing. Like, there was a really good matchup with him and was it Soto? Or Liriano, you could tell that it was just like a lot of heat, breaking stuff down on the zone, like sharp action, and he ended up striking out. But it was a really good battle, and you could tell like your stuff has to be on point to get Aaron Judge to swing and miss at this point in the season and where the level that he's playing on. So that was fun to watch. I mean, he lost that battle, but you can see just how good the stuff has to be to get him out right now.
I was under the impression though that he was like sacrificing power a little bit, not really sacrificing, but I felt like he wasn't hitting home runs in the same So they've played 31 games. He's hit 10 home runs. Do you know how many games it took him last season to get to 10 home runs?
He's hit 11 home runs, to be honest. But
fair enough.
Probably more because he had a bad April, right?
Yeah, it took him 42 games. So
well,
he's
what's
11.
his slugging? Yeah, what's his slugging?
So his slugging is 761. Last year it was 701. But he's hitting a ton of doubles.
Okay,
so,
that's not sacrificing power, though.
Not sacrificing power, but sacrificing home runs. But that's quite literally.
Listen, he hit 10 home runs in a month of baseball. To quick math, that's 60 home run pace ish. That's not sacrificing much power. It's not like he has 2 home runs right now.
But to hit 427 and not sacrifice power, that's crazy.
Right.
Because that's the thing. And the difference is for him, when he hits a line drive, he doesn't need to try to hit a home run. He just puts a pretty similar swing on every pitch. And when he does that, the ball just goes out. So he's got the luxury of being a massive giant. And when he barrels up a ball, it's going to go somewhere really hard and probably really far. So I mean he's that type of guy. He's a 6'8" man that swings a bat like a 6'2" guy. He's got the ability and he's just agile like that, which is wild. We just haven't seen that before.
We haven't. And Kay also made the point. It's amazing he hasn't slumped for 6 months of baseball. Kind of conveniently leaving out October there, Michael K.
Well,
which kind of furthers my point. It's a mental thing in playoff baseball because he was as hot could be, as locked in could be for May through September 30th of last year. And he started off this season as hot and as locked in as could be. It's just there was that gap in October, yes, against the best competition. But I mean, come on.
When you're saying it's a mental thing, what do you mean by that? Because I think that there's different pieces of what are you referring to when you say it's a mental thing?
I think there's a tendency for players in pressure situations, and you can consider all playoff at bats pressure situations, to put undue pressure on themselves to say, I need to get a hit here. I need to be the guy who gets the home run here. I can't make a mistake. And as soon as you start thinking that way, instead of just going up there and staying within your approach and doing the same thing you're doing on April 30th against the Baltimore Orioles that you're doing on October 15th against the Cleveland Guardians or Los Angeles Dodgers, that's when you get in trouble. That's why one of the most impressive stats about Derek Jeter,
I know
it's his playoff. He had a full season of baseball in playoffs, and it's virtually identical, if not slightly better, in the playoffs across the board as it was in the regular season. You don't have to go from a 300 hitter to a 350 hitter in the playoffs to be considered clutch. You need to do what you do in the regular season. You need to do what you do in the regular season. Do that in the playoffs. Then you're considered a clutch player because there's already the discount.
Or the opposite, or do the opposite.
Okay, yes, if you do the opposite, if you suck in the regular season, but you get my point. If you are the same player in low leverage situations into high leverage situations, if you're the same good player, people will recognize that because they're already going to make the mental discount of, well, it is pressure. It is October. You are facing the best teams and the best pitching. I don't expect you to hit 350, but if you hit 300 in the regular season, then you hit around 300 in the playoffs. Beautiful. You're doing what you're supposed to do. But if you go from a 300 hitter in the regular season to a 200 hitter or leading the playoffs in strikeout percentage like Aaron Judge has done on multiple occasions, that's glaring.
Yeah. When I think about the mental approach too, first of all, I think of people who have personalities that are susceptible to that. And when I think about Aaron Judge, nothing tells me that he's got a personality that is affected by, higher pressure situations, October baseball at all. And yeah, 100%. If you're thinking about things differently, if you don't have a similar approach, then you're going to have a different result. But for him, it's, he's got the number one thing for him is expanding the zone, understanding where a strike is and being disciplined with that. Number one thing, because all of the rest of it takes care of itself. If he's swinging at strikes and not swinging at balls, it's pretty simple. It's very difficult to do, but it's pretty simple approach in the sense that you have to have the command of the strike zone. And when he has that, people then have to come into his world, and he tends to dominate. So it's tough to look at his demeanor and say he's different in another area, but maybe it's mechanically and he's pressing a little bit and there's a slight difference. And I think again, for him, because of such a big bodied player, any slight tweak to him in a negative way can be, a longer, no pun intended, problem for his swing. And, maybe that happened a bit in October. And then, it tends to get exaggerated even more, right? When you have the best pitching coming at you.
What's the thing we always talk about that the nerds and the analytics can't quantify? It's the human element of the game.
Yeah.
And that's what the human element is. That's why sports are still great, in my opinion. Even though nerds have overrun baseball, they're starting to overrun the NFL with, you see like all these teams just going for it on fourth down, no matter what, because the stats say this, or going for 2-point conversions, or the NBA just chucking up 3-pointer after 3-pointer, because if you hit your 25% of them, then it ends up being a net positive in the points. So the nerds have overrun all sports, but the reason sports are still great is because of the human element that you can't predict. If you could predict what happens in every situation, then what's the point of watching?
Yeah, 100%. That's right. But it's also when you're looking at a guy like Judge and you're seeing how amazingly great he is, and has
so
been
much
throughout
fun
his
to watch.
career.
Yeah.
I'm watching to see that predictable thing. Like, I want him to, obviously I'm a Yankees fan and I want to see that, but I think as a baseball fan, if you don't hate the Yankees and you're appreciating what Aaron Judge is doing, you're looking for that predictable thing from him in the postseason, because that's seemingly who he is. And that's where
change that narrative, though.
He does.
He's got to change. He has to change the playoff narrative, and it's a real shame. I don't want to do this.
Don't do it then.
It's a real shame he dropped that fly ball, because he did hit that home run early in that game 5. He made a great leaping catch at the wall in center field in that game. If he just catches the can of corn, the Yankees probably win that game. And even if they lose in game 6 or game 7, but they push the Dodgers a little bit further, and maybe Aaron Judge has another big hit, that can help change the narrative. But alas, here we are. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start in the Baltimore series, in which the Yankees just dropped 2 out of 3? Or do you want to start in the Toronto series, where the Yankees did take 2 out of 3 after a meltdown on Friday?
Dealer's choice. You can talk about that, because my streak is over. One of my bold predictions is now finally put to bed.
Make it a month. Almost made it a full month.
Barely made it a day. Loopholes allowed me to stay as long as we're. Let me tell you this, okay? I will put my hand up and say that I did not watch Devin Williams pitch for the Milwaukee Brewers a lot. Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. I was not familiar with your game, and I don't like it.
I looked at the numbers. I listened to the pundits. I saw probably highlights. He's got a nickname for a pitch called Airbender, which is a changeup. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, cool. We solidified after coming back from Clay Holmes. I want to call him Chase Holmes for some reason, but after coming back from that, I'm like, I got hurt emotionally. I got hurt by this. So of course, the next guy's going to be that much better. And when you put up the numbers like this and you have a name, I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. I give you up for Nestor Cortez, who we hit for 4 home runs in the first inning. What could go wrong? This is perfect. And he's been terrible. He's looked like a shell of a guy that I expected to look like. That said, the last 2 outings, very good. Fantastic. Like, that's him, right? That's the Airbender. But maybe he needed to get humbled. I don't know. Maybe he needed to get humbled. And now we're seeing somebody who, we've seen this many times where people come to New York, they get humbled, and then they stay humbled, and they stay humbled, and they stay humbled. This is an opportunity for a guy he's a quiet dude. He doesn't, he seems very more stoic.
He was outspoken about the facial hair policy, which coincidentally, the Yankees changed it after he voiced his concerns with it.
Well, he's on the team. Maybe that was more of a Vlad Jr. play that didn't end up working out. George is like, you son of a bitch, kid. You're soft little.
George,
you're not even going to get him. You're not even going to get him now. And you did this for him. What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know.
So here,
that's done. He's different. He just the first few outings when he looked awful, he couldn't throw a strike. And when you can't throw a strike and you have a changeup as your go-to pitch, that's a problem. So he's been more in the zone last 2, and I know they're not save situations, but maybe there's some bright side there. Obviously, he's got a track record that tends to go well. But I will say, I do remember, and I said this before, this is the comment that just completely stuck out to me, and I'll probably remember it forever. But in that opening series, when whomever that guy was that was a Brewers broadcaster said, well, Brewers fans know that this is what Devin Williams does. I'm like, oh, great. I did not know that. I didn't know we were getting the cardiac kid coming over here to save games.
Right. And it just goes back to the can you do some due diligence, Yankees front office? Like, did you call the Oakland clubhouse to see, hey, can Sonny Gray handle New York? Did you call the Milwaukee clubhouse to be like, hey, can Devin Williams be the closer in New York? Anyone listen to sports radio for an afternoon. They'll tell you if you can handle being the closer in New York.
I'll say this though, Devin Williams doesn't look like the pressure is getting to him necessarily. He just looked completely off. Like he just couldn't throw a strike. I don't know. I don't think that's like him melting in the face of pressure. I think that's just him being a bad pitcher. Frankly.
Okay, maybe, but like, how do you explain?
Because Sonny Gray had it written all over his face that this was too much. For him.
When I looked at
body language told me it was too much for him. Body language isn't telling me this is too much for him.
Oh, I disagree. Devin Williams literally came into that Friday game slumped shoulders. He started off with a single and then a hit by pitch, even though he got 2 strikes on the guy. He yanked a fastball into the guy's kneecap after getting 2 strikes on him. To me, that is just a pitcher who is tight, who is mentally and physically tight because he's feeling pressure. There's no other explanation for how bad he has been when trying to close out games, and not even in safe situations half the time. He had a 3-run lead on opening day.
Well, don't you know that when a closer comes in with a 4-run lead, it's a different mentality?
Oh, right. Yeah. They people always love to point like, oh, Mariano Rivera was at his worst when he had a 4-run lead. Yeah. When he had a 4-run lead, he didn't feel like pitching because he was Mariano Rivera. And instead of getting 1, 2, 3, he might let a guy or 2 get on. He wasn't going to come.
Well, Devin Williams was there in a 1-run game too and didn't work out either.
Exactly. So listen, I don't know. Maybe Devin Williams it just is the setup guy for the rest of the season, and he's totally locked in and he's great. And if that's the case, then fine, because that's still a value.
Again, May 1st, there's going to be an opportunity for him to get that job back, most likely, and they'll do it. Maybe they'll mask the way that they do it. But there will be definitely an opportunity. In the comments, the kid, Wisconsin, I think it's Wisconsin. It's cut off on my screen, but he says, correct me if I'm wrong, but guys don't normally adjust to New York. They can either handle the bright lights or they cannot. There have been situations where guys get off to a slow start and then are able to get into it. And I do think that, first of all, his first outing was against his old team on opening day. And, different feeling right there. Obviously they know you. So you're probably in your own head, even just about that.
And we gave him a mulligan. And
you come over to New York, that this is a thing. That this is a narrative that when guys come over to New York, some of them just completely crumble under the pressure. Some guys love the spotlight. People, handle it in different ways. I do think there's an opportunity for guys to come back. It's happened before. I don't think you're necessarily dead on arrival if you can't handle it right out of the gate. No.
And so I say he could be a fine setup man for them.
He could be a very good closer.
Yeah. I think that's going to be hard because first of all, the "we want Weaver" chants were deafening
for sure.
And so Weaver was a good closer throughout the playoff run last year. He settled that closer role after Clay Holmes completely melted down last season. Weaver has been lights out all season. I don't see it's going to be really hard to slot Devin Williams back in there. And at any hiccup, literally any, if he
goes back up again, for sure.
If he goes on the mound at Yankee Stadium to try to close out a game and one guy gets on, there's going to be "we want Weaver" chants. Unless Weaver starts to blow saves, then I don't see how you get Williams back into that role cleanly. Even if he pitches a bunch of low leverage innings cleanly, even if he pitches high leverage 7th and 8th innings cleanly, I don't see what the problem is with having him be the 7th and the 8th inning guy if he can handle that. And that's what he did for the most part in Milwaukee, and then have Weaver close the game. We were talking about this.
Hold on. There is no problem with that. That's the thing. Like these labels get put on people for many different reasons, but money is one of them. That's a big reason. He's going he's a free agent coming up, so he wants that closer title. Obviously,
then he should have pitched better.
100%. Does that have any influence on what Boone does? Well, you would hope no. You hope that has nothing to do with anything. But I promise you, the little birdie in the back of his brain, as a player's manager, as the cool guy, as the cool dad, is trying to give this guy back that opportunity. But you're right. When you have Luke Weaver coming in, dialed up. Like he looks different obviously we know his personality off camera because he's been very outgoing. Like the Yes cameras have been all over him off the field too, and he's got a quirky thing about him, which is fun. And I think the fans really gravitate towards, but that dude is locked in when he's on the mound, and he has like kind of an animalistic attitude out there and gets fired up. And I love watching that. So there is no reason why. He handled the pressure. He's been a guy who came over and we didn't know what he was. We're like, oh, Luke Weaver, who the hell is this guy? Another journeyman. And he, to his credit, stepped in. I think he did some work with the pitching coach squad and was able to really find his lane, his zone, and has been fantastic. So yeah, there's no reason to make that switch if he's the guy that locks it up, because if Devin Williams pitching well 7-8 and that's a good thing, fine. Who cares? If it is resulting in winning baseball, that's all we should care about.
Agree. And you've also got Fernando Cruz, who has looked really, really good in high leverage spots for the Yankees. And so that's two guys you can slot into that setup man role. We were talking about this in our text chat with Frank and Neil. So Neil was a proponent of using Weaver as middle of the orders coming up, and I got to get those out. Maybe it's the 7th inning, maybe it's the 8th inning, and that's the highest leverage point. And that is sort of like a new school way of thinking about the bullpen. And I agree. If you have a closer who's the closer and can handle that, but actually the most effective guy in your bullpen is the guy who gets the fires out in the 7th or the 8th innings, then yeah, that's in a perfect world. That's how your bullpen works. The problem lies when, even if you're facing 7, 8, 9 in the order in the 9th inning, some guys tighten up just because it's the 9th inning. There's no rhyme or reason for it. Once again, the human element, right? Why did Dellin Betances never able to handle the closer role? But if he came in the 7th inning, he would drop curveballs, buckle guys' knees, and pound 98-mile-an-hour fastballs on the black. But in the 9th inning, it was like he couldn't throw the baseball. Why?
But Devin Williams has proven that he can do that. He led the National League in saves. Like, he's proven that he can do that.
Yes, I know. But my point is, he hasn't proven he could do that with the Yankees. And I think what they were trying to do is use Luke Weaver in the high leverage points in the 7th or the 8th inning, and then get it into the 9th inning and let him handle it. And if maybe 2 or 3 or 4 blown saves throughout the season, okay, whatever. That's just sort of the cost of doing business as a closer. That's baseball, Susan. Mariano Rivera blew a handful of saves every now and again. But when you literally can't find the plate and you literally melt, and you can't even hold 4-run leads, never mind 1-run leads, you can't do it. You just can't do it.
I'm holding out my opinion on him just because it is early in the season and I want to see what he can do more so. I don't think it's a problem. And to your point here, maybe that is the clean way to get him back in the 9th inning, because the most valuable role for Luke Weaver is to be that fire extinguisher in those other spots. Maybe they don't want him in the closer because he's less valuable in that spot, due to the fact that, heart of the lineup coming up in 7th, 8th, he's more flexible. He's more malleable in that sense. Like, to me, if I'm the manager and I have that guy who can be the closer type, but put him in anytime I want to stop the potential of a team coming back, I would prefer that. That's a more valuable guy. He could go multiple innings. So here's an opportunity. I got something here. Everybody in baseball is changing things up. The sweeper. What was the other one like you just bitched about last week?
Count leverage.
Count leverage. There's another one that Jazz has a what?
Flank. He's got a flank.
He's got a flank, right? Like, is that the same like part of like the?
I think it's just it's an oblique, but not as serious.
Okay, so this nickname has been given to people because of losing streaks being ending because of them, because they nut up and they do their thing. But instead of the closer, instead of the setup man, instead of having a hold, why don't we label something that can go to arbitration and get as much money as the closer? The stopper. The stopper. The stopper.
The stopper. No, because the stopper's already a thing. The stopper is the starting.
But that's in the starting. That's a starting rotation. If you have a stopper in the bullpen, I actually think it makes more sense in the bullpen, to be honest, because there's only a few select guys who are the stopper in your rotation.
What's wrong with the fire extinguisher? They already have a term. It's the fire extinguisher.
It's too much. It's not
the extinguisher. The extinguisher. It sounds like a Denzel Washington movie.
Spell it. Spell it. You can't even spell it. If you can't spell it, you're done. Okay. It's too long. Twitter is like, you got to have like, everything's got to be shorter. That's too much. You can't even shorten that word. So the stopper makes so much sense. The stopper is deployed in the
I did spell it right. I just Googled it. I Googled it. I got it right.
Okay. But
I'm gonna start using that. By the way, if someone says a word that I'm like, I don't know if they know what that word really spell. Can you spell that for me?
That's just an immediate like. How smart are you? You think you're smart? Spell that.
It's like you heard that word.
Use that
but
sentence.
You don't really know what it means.
Use that word in a different sentence.
That's so funny. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm glad they finally pulled him and didn't continue to wait until he blew 13 saves like they did last year. But it had to be done because you couldn't continue to trot him out there with the meltdowns that he was having.
So do I have to give credit to Boone one more time here for actually pulling the hook?
No, because this I don't think even was a Boone decision. I think this was like an organizational decision. Like, okay, this needs to stop right now.
This was pure, fear and just absolute getting your memory back to what Clay Holmes was, and you just again been hurt. It's like it's the past hurt. When you see that, you're like, oh, you start shaking. You start like tweaking out a little bit, and then you got to change that for your own mental sanity. So
it wouldn't surprise me if Devin Williams asked to be pulled out of the closer role because
if he did that, that changes the opinion. That changes my opinion on him. If he did that, then I'm going down the line of saying like, okay, this guy saying look, I'm Boone. I've been bad. You could pull me out. Let me get my bearings. See if I could do it, and we'll go from there. Something like, okay, that is accountability. That is standing up in front of your locker saying I suck, and no matter what, my ego is out the door. If he did that, then I'm back on his side. And I think that, yes, he can handle New York if he has that type of accountability and understands where he stands in the realm of everything. Like that's a very good quality for a professional athlete, in my opinion.
I think if he does get the closer role again, he needs to come out clean shaven. And then for every consecutive save he gets, that can be the days he doesn't shave.
Double. Okay. You might be one of those guys who just like, he shaves in the morning and there's a beard in the afternoon.
No, but that's fine. So like if he gets 2 consecutive saves, he can go 2 days without shaving. 3, he can go 3 days until it's all the way bearded back up. Might take all season. And it was interesting because that series, the way it started and the way they squandered that 2-1 victory, Carrasco pitched 5 innings of no runs. It's like you wasted a good start from Carrasco, which you're not going to get many of. And that was just a horrible, horrible way to lose a game. It gets rained out on Saturday, and then you got the doubleheader, and you're like, well, doubleheaders, you usually split doubleheaders anyway, so you're going to lose this series. So for them to actually win that series by sweeping the doubleheader, I thought was a really nice rebound.
I'm glad you reminded me that it's very hard to sweep a doubleheader because I haven't been reminded of that in quite some time. Yeah.
That's in the baseball handbook.
Well, I mean, that's John Sterling's job. That's what he does. And
what's he up to these days?
We're not hearing him. So, I don't get reminded of that. It's very, it's difficult. Susan, it's difficult to sweep a doubleheader. Very hard. And that's what they did.
Yeah, Fried he came out not looking good. He had bases loaded situation in the first inning. He had to work his way out of. The Yankees bats ended up scoring a ton of runs. That was the game where they had Gausman who like mowed down the Yankees in the first 2 innings and then just completely hit a wall and threw 50 pitches in the 3rd inning. I don't know that I've ever seen a pitcher go 50 in 1 inning. That was insane.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who would have gone 50 in an inning. We've definitely seen it over the last calendar year, I'm sure.
Well, you could visibly see the fatigue in Gausman as he was like gearing up for the 47th pitch in that inning. And they almost didn't get the big hit. Wells got the big hit in that inning. I think it was going to be 3 runs, if not for that bases clearing double to get them the 6 runs in that inning. Because if you make a guy throw 50 pitches, you kind of got to get more than 3 runs. Yeah,
definitely. Especially a guy like Gausman where you have to find your spots because you never know. But again, 50 pitches, it's not one of those situations where like, oh, you'll get him, you miss an opportunity. 50 pitches is like the guy's going to be out of the game very soon. So yeah. This is the opportunity right now. And you're not even worried about him finding his groove again.
And Volpe had a big offensive day. He had 4 hits in the 2 games combined, including a home run. And he was pretty good in Baltimore as well. So we called for his benching last week, which I thought was justified because I thought he just looked completely lost. They didn't bench him. He was back there starting again. I think he was dropped in the order, but that was about it. But he has rebounded. And listen, I still just like, you got to prove it to me, Volpe. Like, I know the talent's there. Obviously, the talent's there. Like, we've seen it in spurts. Just prove you can do it for more than 7 games in a row so we can just move on with this.
Yeah, just a little bit of consistency, for God's sakes. Again, it baffles my brain to see his swing and to see the lack of consistency in his numbers over long periods of time. So I don't know. It's tough to even like sit here and defend what he's doing right now or just get excited about it, because every single year so far and every single time, unfortunately you've been right. And there's been a long streak of practically nothingness.
Yep. All right. I want to tell you guys about LinkedIn. If you're a small business owner, you don't have the luxury of checking out early. Your business is on your mind 24/7. And when you're hiring, you need a partner that grinds just as hard as you do. That hiring partner should be LinkedIn Jobs. You post your job with LinkedIn's new feature. It can help you even write those job descriptions, and you quickly get your job in front of the right people. You can either post it for free or you can pay to promote it. Promoted jobs, though, get 3 times more qualified applicants. So that is something you definitely want to consider. Getting qualified candidates is obviously the most important thing at the end of the day. Based on LinkedIn data, 72% of small businesses using LinkedIn say that it helps them find high quality candidates. And you can also share it with your network. You can let your network know that you are hiring by adding the hiring frame to your profile picture to get even more qualified candidates. We all have done it, right? If we're evaluating an application, one of the first things you do is you go to that candidate's LinkedIn page to check out their background, check out where they went to school, what other companies they've worked for, what types of articles they post, or anything like that. But with LinkedIn Jobs, the candidates are already there. They're already qualified. LinkedIn's doing the work for you. That just speeds up the whole process. And that is key because time is money. Find out why more than 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring today. Get your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Bronx. That is linkedin.com/Bronx to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're also brought to you by Game Time and the Game Time game of the week. Scott, what do you think it is?
It's got to be the game that looked like it was a mirror of the Saturday game that we were at in the opening series against Milwaukee. Looked like a mirror to start the game.
Insane. 3 home runs to lead off a game has never happened twice in the same season by the same team in the history of baseball, and it happened in a matter of 30 days. It's pretty.
And then almost the same script where the fourth guy also hit a home run. I think it was Austin Wells that day, right? Where he came
one
up
batter
so
later. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, it's crazy, man. Like when they go on this, and unfortunately, Kyle Gibson first outing out. Not great for him. He's the guy, though. I know you were kind of shitting on him, like not impressed, but he's been a guy that when you look at his numbers over the course of the year, like, oh, all right, he's actually been a pretty good starter. And you look at his career, it's like the guy's had some longevity and been a pretty good starter. Even when he was with Minnesota, like he wasn't a bad starter. He was a pretty good. He's like a solid 3. When you look at
and he had a good year
numbers.
last year. We were looking at his numbers this offseason and we were like, how is this guy not getting signed? Obviously he got signed. And I think the comparison we made was like, okay, so you've got Marcus Stroman on the roster for $18+ million this year. Like clearly Gausman could give you Marcus Stroman level production, which we saw on Tuesday, for half the price. And I don't even know what Gausman was signed for. Yeah, listen, I was shitting on the Yankees for that home run barrage because, like, okay, you're playing home run derby against Kevin Gausman. Awesome.
Kyle Gibson. You're
against Kyle Gibson. Obviously, that was a lot of fun. But at the same time, this offense has just been boom or bust. So I want to talk about that. But first, I got to tell you more about Game Time. The baseball regular season is underway, and that means you're going to be in search for some tickets. Look no further than the Game Time app. I've used Game Time several times, and I love it. The last-minute deals feature is especially cool because you can snag great tickets for affordable prices by just waiting it out. I also love the all-in pricing feature because there's nothing worse than being hit with surprise fees at checkout. Game Time just tells you what the total price is up front. And last but not least, the lowest price guarantee. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less money, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Bronx for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code BRONX for $20 off your first purchase. So I just think the offense has just been so boom or bust. They struck out 8 times against the guy that came into the game with 9 total strikeouts and 5 starts, Sugano, on Monday night. And then they go on this home run barrage against Gibson on Tuesday night. And then you saw last night again, yes, they scored some runs early. Judge hit the home run in the first inning, but the offense disappeared after that, and they lost another 1-run game. And yeah, 15 runs is super fun. It's like, can you win a 1-run game for me, please? Because they're 3-6 in 1-run games, and they're 0-2 in extra inning games. So yes, you can win the blowout games. Your run differential is going to look real nice when you score 15 runs. But when you dig into some of these things and you see them losing 1-run games, it's frustrating.
Yeah, no, I understand that. And the support around Judge is something interesting to look at too, because it has been there. You know, when you're looking at the guys around him, Goldschmidt's power numbers are starting to get there. He had a home run taken away from him the other day. He's been like right at the wall with 2 or 3 of them. Like, I think they're a little deceiving. I think we're going to start seeing more of those numbers. He hit one last night.
He's got warning track power.
He's right there. But either way, even if he's not hitting the ball out of the park like you'd expect, he's producing at a high level. Yes. He's getting on base. He's doing everything you expect him to do, playing good defense. Like, he's been that guy. Ben Rice, as we know, has been having this breakout year, got into a little bit of a slump and broke right back out again, and has looked good. And then obviously Trent Grisham, who, you don't love seeing Aaron Judge sitting in the on deck circle when Trent Grisham's up at the last out, but hard to go against what those numbers have been, trying to get that righty lefty split with him in the middle there. He's been phenomenal. 9 home runs. Like, I love comparing Grisham to Juan Soto at this point of the season. It's just fun to do and look at and smile at. Is it going to last? Probably not, but you'd think that there would be more consistency. But I think that what that does is it speaks to the back end of the lineup, and just has been really bad and very inconsistent after 1 through 3, really, because even Bellinger has not been good.
Oh no, Bellinger! I know he had a home run. When was that? Was that in the game where they hit all the home runs? Bellinger hit one. Yes, because
he did in the first inning.
Dominguez sat that game against Gibson, the righty. Bellinger, who had been struggling, played. And they sat Dominguez to make sure Grisham could get in the game, and Grisham immediately homered. So you're like, okay, like, you can't take Grisham's bat out of the lineup, so I understand it. But Dominguez, you definitely want his bat in there against a righty because he's a much better left-handed hitter. And I've just seen Bellinger's looked pretty bad for the most part.
Yeah.
They went 1 for 6 with runners in scoring position last night. And like I said, they struck out 8 times in 5 innings against Sugano, who came into the game with an 9% strikeout rate. It's just like, why are they? I know he has like pinpoint control, and he was darting, and he was throwing nasty splitters and stuff like that, but they looked pretty pathetic striking out against that guy. And that's why it's like, okay, yes, the next night you hit all these home runs. And then when the offense clicks, it looks really solid. And there's balance in the lineup with Rice hitting home runs and Grisham. And then you've got Judge from the right side and Goldschmidt from the right side. But it's just too many peaks and valleys.
Can we talk about Dominguez for a second here? Just do some eye test stuff. And I'm curious to what people think who are watching this in the comments too. Like, I want to hear your thoughts on like what you think when you see him there. I want to be really excited about Jason Dominguez. Like, I want this guy to be the guy. Like, we all do. We all want this guy to be the guy. It's been a very long time since a left fielder has come up for the New York Yankees, and obviously since Brett Gardner. But this guy is supposed to be like, a top line, grade A talent. There is something missing for me with him. And I think maybe it's like emotional disconnect. Like, he doesn't have, I don't see joy on his face. I don't see frustration on his face. I don't see intensity on his face. There's something about the way that his demeanor that, like, I don't think it rubs me the wrong way yet, but it's like he doesn't show emotion at all in the game for whatever reason. And it bothers me a little bit. It's like, I don't know how to feel about him as a player because I don't see that intensity out of him. And you could go back to like the miscues in the outfield and just like, I think a lot of that plays into this type of thing. I think as a fan, you're looking for some writing on the wall with the facial expressions and the body language. I don't know if it's just me. I don't know if it's me.
No, it's not. I said
there's something there that is like, I feel disconnected from him in some capacity.
Did I say this last week that it just seems like he's going through the motions?
I don't remember if you did.
Okay,
you say so.
Because I feel like he's just going through the motions, and he hasn't been bad, but he also hasn't been good. He's just been there. He's just kind of been league average across the board.
And even his at-bats, like there's nothing inspiration. Like they don't inspire me to say like, oh yeah, this is the guy. And maybe they're early on with that big hit. There was some there, but even that, like, I don't know. It didn't, I was excited for him, but I felt like I was way more excited for him than he was excited for himself.
Obviously when he came up in the 2023 season and lit it up for a short period of time, we saw fire, but we also saw him producing. So I think that was maybe a little bit of it. And we were also just desperate for anything at that point because the season was over. And now it just feels like he's like, well, I'm the left fielder because they've got no one else. They don't even trust me in left field. And he's just kind of a warm body.
I got no one else because they do have someone else. He's been the guy that's been appointed to be that. And with Grisham playing the way that he is, they 100% have somebody else.
Yeah, but what I meant is he got the left fielder job because Trent Grisham was never going to be a starter for them. They were never going to give Trent Grisham a starting role. He's worked his way into starting more. But to the point you just made, is it going to last where Trent Grisham has 1,000 OPS? Of course not. It's not going to last.
Yeah. I'm by no means am I saying that Dominguez doesn't care. That's not what I think. That's not how I'm feeling. I think he cares. I think he cares a great deal. It's and again, this could just be a personal issue for me. And like the guy has no there's nothing saying that he has to go and show emotion like at all. Like a lot of guys do not. But even like the cool, calm, collected character, like I don't think he gives me that vibe either. So I think I'm a little confused as to what he is personality wise. And yeah, maybe he's just a young guy that's just like getting his grip on things and it'll come and just got to be patient for that. But I don't know. There's just like something is disconnected for me in some capacity and I can't put my finger on it.
I mean, I feel like we just have to touch on it because his numbers left versus right are so different than one another. I mean, you look at his total picture numbers, you go to the stadium, look at the scoreboard, he's hitting 228. He's got a 687 OPS, 95 OPS plus. Doesn't do anything for you, right? Like just whatever. Average. You look at his numbers against right-handed pitching in 63 plate appearances. He's hitting 316 with an 872 OPS and a 143 OPS plus. That's like really good.
Yep.
But he's been so brutal from the right side against lefties. 087 average. I'm
trying to remember. Have they turned him around or kept him on the side and gone lefty on lefty?
They haven't gone lefty on lefty. No, they don't want. I don't think they want him to give up switch hitting. But I did do some digging, and this is a problem that he has faced forever. He has never been strong from the right side. Like he's never really had any sort of comparable to his left swing seasons in the minors that I could find.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna give up switch hitting at a point.
I mean, you don't see that very often.
What?
Cedric
guys
Mullins,
giving it up.
He was a switch hitter. Yeah. He turned around, was left, became just a straight lefty and was good.
Yeah, I don't know that we are going to know about it, Scott, because you think of all the switch hitters, they're pretty comparable from both sides of the plate. Even if one side is better, they at least have respectable numbers from the other side. Like the Yankees have had a long history of switch hitters, even in recent memory. Teixeira, Swisher, Posada, like all of these switch hitters were good from both sides of the plate.
Yeah.
So it's Bernie, obviously, I forgot.
Confidence for him is clearly the biggest thing as a young guy coming up, in the limelight here. Confidence is the biggest thing. And if that's a piece that's going to get him more confident, but again, I don't know. I think I think there's just patience with him and seeing where he kind of fits in and finds it. Because again, like you said, when he first came up that time in late in the season, like he was dynamic. And I don't think again, maybe that's production and that's just what winning does. Like as a player, maybe. And there's just inconsistencies and it hasn't been able to like find a consistent groove for him. But I don't know. There's something there that's disconnected from me, and I hope it closes the gap soon.
No, that's good. Well, you want to do an eye test on Will Warren too?
Yeah. Problem. I'm getting tired of hearing about good stuff. Good stuff for the most part. Like we heard that about Rodon, and I got nothing but good things to say about Rodon right now because what have you done for me lately? But Will Warren, same thing. Good stuff. Well, it doesn't matter if you leave a cement mixer up in the zone and it's a 3-run home run, then none of that matters because the damage is done. And you can't walk out here with the bloated ERA the way he has done across his major league starts and inspire any confidence from fans, from the team. He's just not doing it. So, unless he's able to get that control, and that's the biggest thing. Cohen was talking about this. He's got to have his control. Well, yeah, you got to have your control. If you don't have your control, then you as a pitcher are not going to be effective. And when you're in the minor leagues, you don't need it as much because you got guys flailing a little bit more. You can get away with that. But in the major leagues, you can't get away with not throwing the ball where you need to throw the ball.
I disagree with you saying, "Oh, I've heard good stuff." I think his stuff is pedestrian. They're
talking about it. They're mentioning it on air about his stuff being good. They said it in the last outing.
Like
too.
He'll throw a really nice looking breaking ball every now and again. I kind of lump him in the same boat as Clark Schmidt, where the stuff is not going to ever wow you or dominate you. They need to locate in order to be effective. And that's why I say Clark Schmidt can be a really good number 4 starter. And that's what I see Will Warren's ceiling as also, is like a really good number 4 starter. That's a ceiling. That doesn't get me excited. Is that worthless? Of course not. Like there's value in that. But the fact that he's their top pitching prospect and I think his ceiling as a number 4 starter is pretty telling. And when you go back in history and think about the starting pitchers that this organization has developed, or should I say not developed, it's been a long ass time since they've developed a high-end starting rotation pitcher. The last truly successful one was Andy Pettitte, and that's not hyperbole. 30 years ago, Andy Pettitte.
Over a long period of time, you're saying, right?
They had Luis Severino, had flashes, had 2 regular seasons that were really, really good. He could not stay healthy after 2019. And anytime he pitched in the playoffs, he was an absolute puddle. So I'm not counting him. He should have been, but I can't count him.
Injuries derailed him 100%. When he was healthy, he was one of the best pitchers. That first half he had in what year was that? It was just lights out.
He was really good in 2017. And then for most of the 2018 regular season, he was like a top 3 Cy Young pitcher.
Yeah, and you've gone back, and we all know, like, if you're around paying attention at this point, you know what happened with Jabba and Phil Hughes. Phil Hughes had a decent starting stint, and then was switched back and forth with the bullpen a bit.
Phil Hughes was a better starting pitcher when he left the Yankees than he was with the Yankees.
Yeah, you could say that about Ian Kennedy as well. Ian Kennedy,
definitely Ian Kennedy. Ian Kennedy was garbage with the Yankees.
And then Jabba gone back and forth from where he was in the bullpen. But yeah, you're right. The Yankees have had to go on the free agent market and obtain starting pitching in that way. And to their credit, they've been decently good at doing that. And that's been working. But yeah, you want to see something from the minor leagues. When's the last time Clark Schmidt's the last starting pitcher to get drafted in the first round, right? But even before that, I mean, there's been a lot of position players that have been drafted in the first round. And any of these other guys, they're just not developing talent like you see in other places.
That's why you saw Brian Cashman repeatedly try and go on the trade market and acquire controlled starting pitching. It started with Michael Pineda, and then Sonny Gray, and then Jameson Taillon and James Paxton, and none of those worked out. Like, did they look okay for a short period of time? Yes, but none of those worked out. And then he finally said, F that, I'm going to go sign Garrett Cole, Rodon, and Max Fried.
Yeah.
That's worked better, but that's also a lot more expensive and a lot less sustainable.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a sure thing if you can compare it to what the on-field production is. But yes, the value there obviously is very different. And so can we segue into Rodon a little bit and the fact that he's actually put together 3 starts in a row of very good baseball?
Very good.
Now, granted,
19
he had a gift. This last one was gift wrap for him, but he still did the thing.
Gift wrap because of all the runs or the run support. Absolutely. Yeah. So in his 3 starts against Tampa, Cleveland, Baltimore, 19 innings pitched, only 8 hits allowed, 2 earned runs, 7 walks, 24 strikeouts, and the key, 1 lone home run allowed.
Locating your pitches, working the strike zone, but locating your pitches, getting ahead, using your fastball to the best of your advantage, and then deploying the rest of the arsenal. Obviously, the slider being the big one. He's been good. Demeanor's been good. Dare I say we've found something with him. Dare I say he's found something within himself. So hopefully this can continue. But yeah, he responded. We talked shit about him. He responded. We talked shit about Volpe. He responded. Maybe we're going to start seeing some emotion out of Dominguez here, and he's going to get on a heater.
Who else did we just talk shit about today?
Will Warren.
Yeah, I guess we talked shit.
Does he have the ability to? I don't know if he's got the firepower.
No, I joked about this, but I was more impressed that Rodon is able to string together 3 consecutive good starts than the Yankees were able to hit all those home runs off of Kyle Gibson.
Yeah, I mean it's true when you look at that and you're comparing the two. Having Rodon come out for a 3rd straight time and give you the type of start that you'd expect from a guy that's getting paid that much money is a very good thing. And frankly, like you couldn't find better timing for him to come out and pitch these 3 games in the way that he has. Obviously, Fried's been consistent and good, and you're basically like you need to bank on that as a win, and they have really they've won the majority of. I heard the number the other day. It's like, have they won all of his starts? They've won, if not all of them. I think they have. If not all of them, all but maybe one. But Rodon needs to be that second guy who is creating stability, because after that, who the hell knows?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you saw Carrasco, they squandered a good Carrasco start, but then you saw his ineffectiveness against Baltimore. Will Warren's game logs, literally, if you look at it, it's kind of like the Yankees offense. It's up or down. But his bad starts have been especially short. Like he got pulled in the 3rd inning against Tampa. He got pulled in the 4th inning against Baltimore. And that just puts such a strain. And then Schmidt, I still think he's continuing to ramp up. He looked okay against Cleveland in that doubleheader, but at the same time, he walked 4 guys in 5 innings against Cleveland. So he's got against Toronto. So he's got to clean that up.
And that's always been Clark Schmidt's Achilles heel is the fact that walks are one thing, but missing pitches, missing locations has been when he was really inconsistent a couple years back. You just saw the catcher's glove moving all over the place. And when you see the glove moving all over the place, like that's a bad sign just off the jump.
He doesn't have the stuff to miss location.
He does not have the stuff to miss locations. He needs to live on the edges and mix things up. And frankly, he does have the arsenal. That curveball is a plus pitch. He's got the ability to do that, but you're right. He's got to be on. He's got to be very strategic in the way that he attacks pitcher or batters.
Think back to last May. And Luis Hill missed the location routinely. And you couldn't have found a better pitcher in the month of May last year because his stuff was just that elite. And that's a pitcher who obviously they were going to be counting on this year as someone. I know they didn't draft him, but they signed him as an international free agent. Was he acquired? Or did they sign him?
No, regardless. He was acquired. Wasn't he acquired by in a Marlins deal?
Yes. What deal was that?
I'm trying to remember who that was.
Wasn't the Stanton deal?
No,
that's too long ago.
Yes, too long ago. Keep going. I don't think.
Logan, can you look up how the Yankees acquired Luis Hill? Anyway, the injury. So we might.
I know how they acquired Luis Hill. They got him for Jake Cave from the Twins. When they needed a 40-man spot.
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's
Jason.
Anyway, we might in 2 years be talking about Luis Hill as a top end starting pitcher that they quote unquote developed. I hope we do talk about that. But right now we can't say that yet.
Well, unfortunately, it's the same thing with Severino. You have a flash, you're like, you get very excited. And then all of a sudden injuries start happening and you're like, well, shit, is this a guy that can sustain, as a healthy starting pitcher throughout an entire season? And that's what we're looking for. You know what I mean? Like that's the key. He's got the talent, no doubt about it. Can you stay healthy? And, obviously we're so ready. He's about to ramp up and start throwing again, isn't he? Aren't we at that weak moment?
Well, yeah, they delayed him 10 days, but even so, he's on like a 3-month ramp up period. This is like a long ramp up period. This isn't like he's going to be ready for June 1st type of thing. Oh,
I fully understand that. We're looking at post All-Star break for him.
The last thing I want to say, well, 2 more things about the Baltimore series. The bench is clearing brawl because of the misunderstanding. Like, first of all, Kjerstad, like,
he had his nuts on. Look, okay,
relax.
Nuts on his head. He had someone's nuts.
Got a helmet on. You've got a helmet on.
Anytime you do that, you're like, I'm going to fight that person. If
first of all, there's 2 pieces of plastic. There's 2 pieces of plastic between his cranium and Reyes's nuts. There's a helmet and a cup. That's a lot of plastic for protection.
A lot of time that cup is not containing, the boys all the time. But I will say, anytime you're like, why is this guy sitting on my neck? I think it was just like he was very surprised that, first of all, he was in the air for a long time. He definitely stayed up there.
Hops.
And the fact that he landed on his head and neck, I think it was just a surprise. And then the overreaction of the bullpen guys sprinting in was so dumb looking. Just so dumb looking. What are you doing? Just everybody relax.
My favorite part about the bullpen run-in is they run side by side. It's like both bullpens are coming out of the same place and they're just sprinting the 400 feet together. And then they get to the mosh pit, and then they would start, like, if you're really truly fighting, start fighting in the outfield when you guys are next to each other.
Yeah. Go after the people that are out closest to you.
Yeah.
You see that? Yeah. I don't know. It was interesting benches clearer. But yeah.
The other frustration I have with Aaron Boone and the Yankees offense is you give Volpe walking to lead off the 8th inning last night down by a run. Why is he not trying to steal?
He's hopping around so much. And again, like they're talking on the broadcast about, he does this so well. Yeah. Okay. I remember him doing this when he first came up and I'm like, oh, I love it. He's trying to he's creating some chaos. Like he's fucking around with everybody, but you got to run then too. You got to like actually show that you're going to run and give me some signs that you have that instinct to, when you land off of one of those hops, to go and like, give me that first step that's quick. And he's just not doing that. Like he should be a guy that's stealing 30 bags a year minimum. Like there's no reason why he's not running. Now I understand Bellinger went down in the count, was down 1-2. And at that point, it's a lot tougher of a situation, but shit, Bellinger was fouled off that high fastball and then struck out when he went right back up there, because of course you're going to go back to the well after you see someone foul off a ball, a foot above the zone and struck out. So, much ado about nothing. But if Volpe's on second base, first 2 pitches, maybe it's a different at bat. Maybe the pitcher's got a little something in the back of his head that Volpe's, they got to be a little bit more careful on what's coming. So, he's got to be more aggressive, and he's in a place in the lineup where he should have a green light to be more aggressive. And if he does have a green light and it's on him, I don't know. Like he needs to get over that and just run. I don't even care if you get thrown out a little bit. Just run.
Exactly. You've got 3 struggling hitters coming up, and you saw why they're struggling, because they all went down 1, 2, 3 strikeouts. If you're hoping one of those guys hits a 2-run home run, that's just a horrible offensive approach. Like you've got to be able to score runs in other ways than just bashing home runs. You need to be able to execute. You need to be able to steal a base there, move a runner, and scratch across a run down by 1 run in the 8th inning. That's the only way. If you're going to win close games, it's the only way it's going to happen.
And also, by the way, when you are creating chaos on the base path, and if you're on second base, you're increasing the opportunity for that pitcher to leave a ball over the plate, put a little something extra in his head if you're in scoring position. And then, you might get better pitch. You might get a pitch that's leaking back over the plate. And then the home run can come when you're on second base, or he, barrels something up and it hits a gap, or just a bleeder through the infield, whatever. Now at least you're able to score. So he just needs to be more aggressive, and they need to unleash him. And if it's not if it's him with the green light, like someone needs to give him a mandate to run more.
Yeah. The green light, he didn't take the opportunity. So you tell him you're running in this at-bat.
Yeah.
Like, as the manager, you tell him, go get on second base. And if you get thrown out, that's on the decision for us to
again, you can only find out how good of a base stealer you are if you try to steal bases. So if there's a different approach that you need to tweak because you're getting thrown out, then make that adjustment. But you've got the speed to do it. There's no reason why that he's not able to steal bases. He's done it before. We've seen it. I don't think he's got like a bad first step. I haven't noticed that. So, quit. You look stupid when you're hopping around and don't do anything. Okay. Yep. It's like fun in games and looks cool in the beginning, but you got to run. If you're not running, you just look like a jackass over there hopping around for no reason. He's like, the pitcher's just going to ignore you.
Yeah. This offense has a lot of holes right now. And first of all, Bellinger, Wells, those are not guys you thought were going to be hitting at the bottom of the lineup. You thought those guys were going to be hitting at the top of the lineup. And instead you've got Rice and Grisham hitting at the top of the lineup. And you thought those guys were going to be hitting at the bottom of the lineup. So is it a wash? Yeah, fine, maybe. But when you get a leadoff guy on the 8th inning, Volpe, who has speed, and then you've got Bellinger and Wells up in the inning, you expect to be able to score that. You expect to be able to get that run across the tie of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe get those guys out of the home run zone, like doubles in the gap, going the opposite way is certainly a better approach for them right now as they're struggling.
I did pull the StatCast numbers on both Grisham and Rice. They're off the charts. Like everything is dark red, top 80, top 90 percentile on both of them. Will be interesting. I know a lot of people have talked about where you play Ben Rice when Stanton comes back. There is no timetable on Giancarlo Stanton. It could be 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, 100 weeks for all we know.
Yeah.
Likely the problem will be solved for you when and if Stanton comes back. Either someone will be struggling or someone will be injured and there'll be a natural spot for him. But let's play the game. Stanton's ready to come back. I'm calling June 1st. Okay. Optimistic, or some point in June. Stanton's ready to come off the IL. Ben Rice is still hitting. What do you do?
I don't like this game because now you're forcing me to get into a situation that I don't think is. I agree with you. I think it's going to unfold in the way that it's going to unfold. I think that you obviously have to rotate and use the DH spot to your advantage and get Ben Rice in there. You get Ben Rice at first base, play the matchups a little bit more, but you can't sit Goldschmidt either. So I think that Stanton's going to have to play part-time until he can come out and do it. You can't sit Ben Rice when he's hitting like this. So if Stanton's coming back, you can't just immediately bench Rice and put Stanton in. You gotta try to manage the at-bats as much as possible and give other guys days. If Bellinger's, not hitting the way he needs to, then you're creating a rotation of guys that keeps the hotter bat in there. Ben Rice can also play multiple positions. Maybe you're
what
seeing what he can do.
Ben Rice play?
He can catch.
Yeah.
He can play first base.
And I think what we're seeing is the flaws in this roster.
A lot of people who can catch and play first can play third.
I think this highlights the flaws in this roster.
Why?
Is that you have
Stanton who can't play anywhere in the field. That's the problem.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and you've got a guy who's hitting who also can't play anywhere in the field. He's not a good first baseman, and let's be real, he's not a catcher. He's a DH. He's a 25-year-old DH.
He could play first base. I don't think he's a bad defender.
I think he's a bad defensive first baseman.
He's not a bad defensive.
He looked bad last year. Logan, what are your thoughts? Because I saw you make a face.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't really noticed him over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, usually that's like a good hallmark. Is he a Gold Glover?
He also hasn't had a lot of time over there either this year. But the point is, like, he could absolutely play first base if you wanted him to play first base.
Well, Goldschmidt is hitting 360 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. So you have to look at the rotation. I think the DH spot is where you're looking. Maybe it's platooning him with the backup catcher and a Scar and getting creative with days there. But either way you look at it, there's a logjam. There's no clear answer to that. There is not a clear answer to that. You're not just sitting one guy. I think it's going to have to be a who's hot situation, but I just don't think Stanton's going to walk in and be the DH. I think they're now looking at him and saying, okay, we have a little bit of a luxury until maybe we don't, if Rice doesn't continue to do this, but they, for all intents and purposes, they believe he will, but you got to keep Stanton, upright and healthy until you get to the playoffs. And at that point, you just try to string him along as long as humanly possible, keeping him healthy. and that's not playing him every day right now.
And
Again,
the problem will be solved. The problem will be solved. It's always solved.
Yeah.
Last thing. I hate laughing at this story, but DJ LeMahieu stalled rehab because he got a cortisone shot because he, quote, felt something coming on.
Kind of love that. He felt something coming.
So you get a cortisone shot. Not, I'm going to take the weekend off because I feel something coming on. Inject me, baby.
Look, DJ's a man of action. I appreciate that. Okay.
Cortisone shot is like the last resort. Literally,
you don't think he's on last resort?
Are falling off.
You don't
My
think he's on last resort?
Exploding.
I think
he feels something coming on.
DJ probably at this point understands where he is geriatric in certain areas. Look, DJ's a smart guy. He's not a stupid guy. He knows what's going on. If you don't think this is the most frustrating for DJ LeMahieu himself, then you're crazy, because that guy, talk about a silent assassin who doesn't show a lot of emotion, but you can tell that there's an intensity on him, that there's something there. Like, that's the type of there's a connection for some reason in his head when he was on. He was quiet, didn't say a damn thing. Personality was not there at all, but there was something there with him. I don't know what it is. This guy understands that he's in a situation where if he gets hurt again, or if something lingers and stays on, like he's close to done. So inject me, baby. Give me a needle in that spot and make it numb. Make it feel better.
But cortisone shots, those are like, you have to get limited amount. You can't just keep injecting yourself with cortisone.
Know.
Right. So they wait until like the pain is intolerable to give a cortisone shot. And it's like, okay, you're not going to be able to function. So we're going to inject you so you can get through the next week. These are things guys do to, like, I need to just make it through the World Series here. Load me up with cortisone, baby. Not, I'm in the beginning of my rehab and I feel something coming on. Inject me with cortisone. That is not a long-term plan.
Let me tell you what. Sometimes I feel something in my back, and I know damn well it's coming. And it's coming. And if I don't walk like a statue for the next day and a half, I'm screwed for a week.
Doing the sciatica walk? The sciatica waddle?
And so DJ at that level now, add 10 years to his body, okay? Because that's kind of where he is at this point. The surgeries have added 10 years to his body, most likely. And DJ, being the smart guy, understands that if something's coming, he's like, look, I've felt this before. It's on the road to this. Inject me. You're going to do it in 5 days when I don't feel great. Do it now so I can feel better and try to get through a rehab. Serenity now. Give me the needle. Let's see what happens. Let the chips fall where they may, and let's play baseball. And that's what's happening. So I appreciate that and applaud it, and hope it helps.
I don't think we see him on a major league field again.
That's a sad sight, but definitely a possibility.
If you were taking odds right now, what are you betting? We'll see on a major league field again, or will not see on a major league field again?
The heart of a lion. I'll say he's going to be back at some point, but who knows what he gets. But you see injuries derail. Like, look at that kid from Florida State that the Jets drafted a few years ago. Very Jets-like, drafting a kid in the 5th round, and then he retires and is from medically retired because he doesn't rehab back. Retired. It's exactly what happened. Jordan Travis, it's actually like really unfortunate for the kid because sucks. He was having a really good career coming out of Florida State, and then he got a horrible injury and just it couldn't be where he was. And unfortunately, that happened. Yeah, it's a different story. Totally different story. I'm not saying that's the same story, but at some point, injuries can just say that you're done, and that's it.
I'm 36 years old. I'm about to be 37. I could use a cortisone shot.
Yeah, I could use a couple of them. Forget the limits. Throw the limits out the door. Okay,
Doc, I feel something coming on.
Just leave it here. Give me like 5 refills and just leave it here. Just walk out.
I'm not even trying to get back on the field. I'm just trying to get my kids to sleep at a reasonable hour. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you guys for tuning in, and for Game Time and LinkedIn for sponsoring us today. Scott, anything else you want to touch on?
I got nothing else. Let's see some consistency.
All right. We'll talk to you guys again next Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, streaming live on YouTube. See you then.